How y'all doing? How y'all doing? This is Alvin with Trying Success on the Old Fashioned Health Network. Good health inside and out. We have Mr. Jason Swanson on the show today. But thank you for the time. Go ahead, man. Introduce yourself so people know who you are.
Oh, man, brother, it's appreciated. Thank you. I'm honored to be on your platform, brother Alvin. I'm Jason A. Swanston. I'm a serial entrepreneur in the tech space. I've been in the tech space since 1991 when I got my first internship as a graphic designer at a company called Technovations in Manhattan. And then I prior to that, I entered college at 13, the first STEM program, and at NYU. And then 2 years later, I got an internship doing graphic designing and learning 3D animation, working on different platforms. And then 2 years after that, not 2 years after that, during that time, I entered Ivy League school, Columbia University at 15. I just basically was jumping all around because my family was heavily inundated with software engineer, the ideals of Marcus Garvey, and basically wanting me to be a Supreme Court judge for the Black community, to help fight injustices. And I just said, you know what, I love technology because my mom was a software engineer. My father was and still is an entrepreneur. And it was instilled in me to always exceed more than, the average. Don't let, the community, because I'm from Harlem, just define you. You define yourself. So that was instilled in me. And I turned 17. I got an internship at a multimedia studio that was manufacturing the computers that basically created these various different animations, like you find in Marvel movies. It was called Advanced Multimedia Systems, and that's where I learned how to build virtual worlds, which are now called metaverses. This is 1993. So, give you context. I was drinking Coca-Cola, eating Cheez-Its, and listening to Dr. Dre's The Chronic that first came out, and I was learning how to create virtual or avatars and 3D models of, Statue of Liberty, Pyramid of Giza. And it just influenced me to basically get into the whole mode of game development. And that's why I got my bones learning software, C#, C++, Unix systems, but the problem was that there was no olive branches being given out in Hollywood for African-American kids like myself, who was 17, to go into the multimedia space and get paid $2,500 a minute, because that's how much they were paying people back then. It's $2,500 a minute to do an animation, to do a 3D model of something animated, for 60 seconds. So if you had to have like a college degree, and I didn't. So my best bet was to jump into the entertainment industry. So I had a graphic designing background. I said, let me get into the entertainment industry. And that's when I started doing graphic designing for a couple of R&B managers, Charles Huggins, who was Mo Moore's husband at the time, and working and doing stuff for Bad Boy. And I learned marketing. And I said, you know what, I can make more money doing marketing by watching Puff and what he was doing with all the artists at Bad Boy, from Craig Mack and Biggie and Total. And because I had a tech background, I said, you know what, this would be awesome to start to, market online. But nobody was really hearing me. Right. We're talking about 1997. And so by 98, grassroots marketing was really big because hip hop was the golden era of hip hop. Right. And everybody and their grandmother said, you know what, we need a grassroots marketing team because we need to keep the buzz going with all these artists. And I started a marketing firm on Wall Street called Wall Street Marketing Promotions. And I was able to employ 1,200 inner city youth in 32 cities as marketers. And because the Napster debacle started to really penetrate the music industry, I basically became a rock star in a nutshell, whereby I was able to convince certain people in the record labels, hey, listen, you need to start marketing, your records, the coming of the records, the dropping of the records in record stores on these various different chat rooms. So that was the beginning of what was called digital strategy, which is now called social media. Okay. So I was one of the first movers to do social media for the record labels by way of having young high school and college students, as well as kids that were coming home out of jail, at-risk youth, marketing Biggie's albums, Foxy Brown, any artist that I had a contract with, because I had contracts with 15 record labels. We were talking about the coming of their albums on AOL chat rooms, basically talking to thousands of music consumers and kids, specifically white kids in the suburbs of America, because they were the ones that really were buying hip hop in the droves, to get them to go and run out to the record stores. And a couple of Black consumers that would go to the mom and pop stores, right, in the inner cities, like in Atlanta. So that became a thing. And then, of course, Napster hit hard, and my company became basically a rock star, because we had the bodies to talk about, an album or an artist's IP or his ancillary products, like his clothing line or his investment on Wall Street. So, for the next 20 years, I would basically be promoting 80 platinum artists and learning and loving, the fact that this particular space, I was part of it, in terms of pioneering, what is now called social media. And now that we have, we're into the Web 3.0 space, where, everything is moving from .com now to having a meta address, or being a avatar or a meta human in a virtual environment. I think that it's awesome, because I'm really excited that I was able to see the maturation of people's mindsets and accepting various different transitions of the World Wide Web. And, I'm just excited to just be on this platform and let everybody know, hey, listen, you can do it, just follow your heart. But more importantly, if you love what you do, study everything about it, especially because you have this device in the palm of your hand called a mobile device. Mm-hmm. And you have a search engine called Google Chrome or Safari, where you can actually search the information. And if you don't know how to search, just literally write the question, how do I write software? How do I make a video game? How do I build a metaverse? And literally those articles will start to appear in your mobile device. We live in a world, when I grew up, I had to go to Barnes and Nobles to study. We didn't have social media. We didn't have, we just didn't have, search engines like what we do now. Right. But I had to go to Barnes and Nobles and physically look through books on coding and do trial and error with my computers. So now the generations nowadays, they have access to information. So my whole objective at this particular point is to promote studying. You have to study your craft. You have to be the best at it, and always compete with yourself. Don't compete with someone else. Don't swipe up and down on TikTok, left and right, you know what I mean? And worry about what someone else is doing. If you have a passion for something, because those are distractions, you need to study. And I think that then, you'll be fine. And that's why we at my companies, my startup tech companies, Avnio, NFT Fans Agency, and my metaverse, Earthia, we're so successful because all of my staff and my partners, we study everything about everything when it comes to that particular space. And that's who Jason A. Swanston is, just a serial entrepreneur who loves his race and loves the human race and wants to make impact before I leave Earth.
So you are an example of being able to be as successful as you are and still reach back and love your race and do what you can for them.
Of course, yes. That's one of the main reasons why, I started the Black Investor Stock Group on Facebook, because I wanted to not necessarily cliche give back. I just wanted to basically be a staple on planet Earth where, other ethnic groups looked at me as an example of what we are in our community and in the Black race, whereby I'm giving information for free. And I don't chastise anyone who's charging, Black people for financial information. That's just not my modus operandi. I don't believe in that, because I've watched other ethnic groups and they give out information freely to each other because they believe in group economics. I believe in Black group economics. And the only way we can really ascertain the proper ways of developing Black group economics within our race, not our community, but our entire race here on planet America, is if we literally, if we share information, selflessly, I ask people every day, especially people within my communities, what have you done for someone within your community? What have you done for your race? Have you posted something that can change someone else's life within your race?
Right.
You know, because me living in Asia, the Asian demographic, they do everything for their race, and they make no qualms about it. And so my thing was, I took a page out of their book, because we are all programmed to think a specific way. We're indoctrinated to basically be separatists. And I said, you know what, if the Asians are thinking 20 years from now, because I'm over there in Asia, I'm in India, you know, I'm in these Asian areas, then we should do the same thing. Right. So I started the Black Investor Stock Group, where I said, you know what, I'm going to give out as much information as possible, and I'm going to be as defiant and as aggressive as possible, whereby I'm telling my Black community, my communities around the country that come into my group, and say, listen, if you don't do this, then you're part of the problem. You cannot complain about what another ethnic group has done to our people if you're not helping, especially if you know the information. If you're a certified public accountant, if you're an attorney, if you're a financial advisor, a certified financial advisor, or if you just have good old Black advice because you went through something, and you're not giving that to somebody that can help, that needs the help, then you're part of the problem. You're no different from a KKK member. You're no different from a white supremacist. Mm-hmm. The only difference is that you're doing it by withholding the information. And that is the worst thing that Black men and women can do to our race than a white supremacist can.
And that's suppress and not share information.
And that's right. And that's to suppress and not share the information aggressively, mm-hmm. with a laser focus to be determined on us coming together as one.
So what did this burning desire to really want to be, where did you get this from to really want to go back to help the community? Were you taught this, or were you raised in a household to be like that?
Yes. Well, we're Garveyites. So we was raised, if you know the teachings of Marcus Garvey, it's all about Black nationalism, you know, and to be proud of who you are. To understand that we are one race. It's not just, oh, he's Jamaican and she's African and he's Black American. We're one, because when we're all in one car or one van or one bus, mm-hmm. and we get stopped by a state trooper that's not from our community, mm-hmm. we're all one race. Right. So there you go. They don't care if one has a Jamaican dialect and one speaks patois and the other one speaks, Twa, from one of the Igbo tribes. But the point is this: at the end of the day, I was taught that we must help each other. When I stepped into that STEM program at NYU at 13, it was basically instilled in me that I have 30 plus Black Americans on my shoulder. So I must represent us. I must know everything that the white kids and the Asian kids know. I must know every answer. So when I came back home, after class, I would have to study ahead of time. And so the burning desire came from the family infrastructure, my family infrastructure that went through civil rights. My mom, being spat on, hawk spit on because, she was Black. My grandmother integrating Midwood High School, being hawk spit on. So all that information was instilled in me. And they said, hey, listen, you have to realize that as you grow and as you gain the knowledge, you have to turn around and make sure that pull 2, 10, 30, 50 of us along the way, because that's what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And so that's where the burning desire came from ever since I was an adolescent.
We were laughing before we got started with the show that Jason used to work when they had the bond.
The Wells Fargo
thing. I was like, man, you've been here as long as you was here before. So how long?
Yes, sir.
How long were you here before you moved to New York? Or do you go back?
I moved back. I was only here for 6 months.
Okay.
Because I just couldn't. I wanted to create I wanted to build my virtual club called Virtua Station. It was like it was going to be like a VR club back in '96.
Yep. Okay.
Because I was building my own VR headset. I actually built a VR headset back in '96 with a couple of friends of mine over in Japan. Okay. And I thought by going to Atlanta, which was at that time to me was the melting pot for Black excellence, right?
Yeah.
And when I got to Atlanta, I realized that the brothers and sisters, they weren't tech savvy, or they were just not ready for technology.
at that time.
And so at that time, and this is the time where, Jay-Z just came out with Reasonable Doubt, and he had that hit with, I like to give song references, right?
Yeah, no,
and
I
so,
like that too, yeah.
yeah, so I was like, you know what? I got to leave. So I basically went back to New York, and I started a small record pool called Swanee Promotions, where I started to market, records to club DJs. And yeah, it was and that's literally how that happened. But I liked Atlanta. It was okay. It was one of those things where when the bombing happened, I was there. It was different. It was traumatic. I was a security guard, and I saw Muhammad Ali, put the fire in the basin, and I saw 4,000 women in leotards do the opening ceremonies, and then the bomb blew up, and it was it's like war. It's different. So, but I was already equipped with that because coming from Harlem, I've seen death and destruction and drugs and violence and police brutality. So, but to see it there, like in an environment where your guard is down, even though you are a security guard, it was like it was different. Yeah, so I left.
Like to do it again. Yeah. Let's just start. Start the conversation. Start the project. And don't let not starting be the reason you didn't succeed. Enter a space where you can dream free and start or continue your journey. Located in a building and street full of history, I challenge you. I challenge you to start. You see the vibes. No worries. With our space and your imagination, the possibilities are endless. Having a comfortable space for your podcast, film, or any other production is the first step to you starting. And always remember to dream, create, and then do it all over again.
You've done so much, in the fact that you started school at 13, college.
Yeah. NYU Science and Technology Entry Program. Yes, sir. So.
How do you think, as far as tech is concerned now, this whole thing with the metaverse and all that, how do you think that's going to impact the African American community?
It's funny you say that because me and my friends and my partners, we're putting together a Blacks in the Metaverse educational conference soon, and I'll send you some information on that. We're going to do that in every state throughout the next 5 years, because to speak to your question, I think that the metaverse is going to affect us a great deal, because from our entertainers to our influencers, all the way to our Gen Zs and our millennials that just onboard or subscribe to these apps and now these metaverses, I think that if we don't take the forward posture of learning the various different nuances and dynamics of the metaverse, number one, how it's being cultivated by people that don't look like us, then we're going to get marginalized. Case in point, there's a metaverse called Upland. So I'm on Upland, and it shows a map of cities, New York, Chicago, and you're able to buy parcels of land. Okay, great. But if you go to certain areas that I know and are heavily inundated with our people, we can't buy those parcels of land. But yet and still, these particular metaverses will force us, per their terms of use, to onboard and subscribe, or we call it onboarding in the metaverse, to these apps, and convert our cash to their crypto to help build their economy in order to buy parcels of land. And their virtual land, which is literally a virtual replica of our cities, Harlem, Chicago, 5 Points in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. But they are marginalizing by way of siphoning off what they want to release. And if an area is inundated with us or has a high crime rate because of, let's just say, because of, us living there, I'm not saying it's the reason why, but let's just say, they release these parcels of land at certain times, or they just hold it. And I think that it's unfair. So getting to your question, just even using that as an example, that Upland example, I think that we need to basically learn it. We need to study, and we need to build our own metaverses where we can invite other ethnic groups to our world and how we interact with each other, as well as how we interact with other individuals. Because if you're African American, an African, or a Caribbean programmer, software developer, we code differently. A lot of the software engineers who happen to be Caucasian, who happen to be Asian, okay, i.e. Indian, South Korean, Japanese, Chinese, Eastern European, i.e. Russian, Czechoslovakian, Romanian, and then white American, you put all those particular ethnic groups in one particular software clump, they code from a biased standpoint.
Right.
And it's not their fault.
Right.
It's just that they're not from our community, so they don't understand our blue. They don't understand our pink. They don't understand why would a Caribbean man wear a pink shirt.
That's right.
With some green flip-flops.
Right.
So when you understand that, you can't complain if you onboard Meta, which is Facebook's metaverse, which is originally called Horizon. You can't complain when you onboard Decentraland, or you can't complain when you onboard Sandbox and they don't have the features that allow us to create virtual worlds inside their ecosystem.
Right.
So it's going to affect us. It's going to affect us a great deal if we don't start building our own metaverses from our perspective, so that other ethnic groups can understand how we live amongst each other and how we see the world.
Okay, so now this is going to be interesting. So let me ask you a question like this, and I'm doing this for the people that still don't quite understand the metaverse, right? So I'm concerned about the singers, but we'll talk about the singers in the metaverse in a minute. But the way you just eloquently explained it now, perfect. But for those people that think it's just you take off these glasses and you feel like, okay, I'm back in Atlanta, I'm no longer in the metaverse. So they're thinking that it doesn't affect me anymore once I take off these VR, these virtual glasses, right? They thinking that, okay, I take my glasses off, I don't have to get in that world anymore and it's not going to impact me. Can you explain to people how just because you don't participate in the metaverse often, or maybe not hardly at all, or don't have any significance in understanding, how it still can impact you just because you're not a part of it? You understand what I'm saying? Like, some people think, well, I can just take these glasses off. I don't have to be a part of the metaverse. But for me, I'm thinking you may not feel like you have to be a part of it, but you kind of are part. It's going to impact you one way or the other, because it'll be so. In order for you to complete an education, or in order for you to do some of the things you want to do, they're going to attach it to a metaverse
ecosystem.
System, exactly. So can you explain it to them, explain it to the listeners that's listening, that just because you don't put on the RV, is it RV glass? What do they call the
VR, virtual reality, VR.
Right, yeah, just because you don't put the VR glasses on, that it doesn't mean that it's not going to impact you. Can you explain to them?
Yeah,
kind of like.
Sure. Well, let's take it back a little bit. So when you're talking about the metaverses don't necessarily need someone to enter it by way of having a VR headset on their head. You can go. There's metaverses that have apps that technically allow you to download their metaverse for you to peruse or browse through the metaverse as an avatar from your mobile device. So it's like a video game before you put this VR set on. So the misconception is with the metaverse is that you need a VR set, and you don't, because there's Decentraland, there's Sandbox, there's Meta, and there's Upland, and there's 90 plus other metaverses being built, including ours, where onboarders won't need to have a VR set to engage a metaverse. Okay. And those four I just mentioned are already out. You can download them. You can create your own avatar. There's another one called Second Life, which is really, really futuristic and thought provoking. But those particular metaverses allow you to download the app, and you can engage other avatars that are controlled by humans from your mobile device, your desktop, or your laptop, or your tablet, period, the end. And if you want the VR set experience, then of course you would have to buy that particular VR set that's compatible, or that has that metaverse housed on that VR set, which is what a lot of people think, because Facebook is so humongous in terms of their marketing. People think that, the metaverse is all about me needing a VR set, and that's not the case at all. So to get to your point, and your question rather, is how it will impact. It'll impact you a great deal, because you have major corporations in every sector, from food and beverage, which is McDonald's, to apparel, which is Nike, that are trademarking their names for the metaverse. You have major icons like Snoop Dogg, who just sold his album that made $40+ million in 5 days as an NFT inside a particular metaverse called Sandbox, in which he owns his own mansion. Okay, it's virtual, and there's more people that are converting their cryptocurrency into that particular token to buy parcels of land to live next to Snoop Dogg or around Snoop Dogg's virtual community. So in terms of impact, you have a person like a Snoop Dogg who impacts not only my generation, our generation, but even the younger generation, okay, whereby if he says, come to my party or come to my virtual concert, we do. And then when we offboard, or when we turn off our mobile device, okay, we might talk about it. We might talk about it to our friends. Hey, did you go to Snoop Dogg's concert in the metaverse? Oh, yeah, I did. Did you buy something? Actually, I did. Oh, how much did you pay? Oh, I paid 1 Ethereum. So just with that conversation alone, the metaverse is going to impact our daily life, because people are going to start converting their cash into cryptocurrency to purchase digital assets, so that now they have something to talk about, A. B, they have what is called social wealth, because you know what? I just got Snoop Dogg's album in my digital wallet that no one has. You can't get it on Spotify. You can't get it on SoundCloud, YouTube, or Apple iTunes. You can only get it on, or you can hear it rather, in my virtual apartment in this metaverse. So that within itself is going to be impactful. And then the educational piece. But every sector right now, as we speak, including the high net worth individuals that control certain environments, are dumping millions of dollars into creating their own environments, because you know what? We had Web 2.0, which was you going to a website to pay a bill, right? To onboard or to subscribe to a bank so you can open up a checking account. Well, Web 3.0 is the next level. Well, you have a virtual environment now. And that's going to be impactful, where people are now going to have to be forced to not only engage other people as an avatar, but more importantly, they're going to have to convert their cash into crypto.
Wow.